Ashe greetings and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans, the world over. And you don't know that this is yours truly, I, the Mystic Philosopher. And welcome to part 24, the continuation of my series of talks titled Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, yes, the land of upright people, the land of people of integrity, be set free? Now, if you haven't yet watched or listened to part 1 through to part 23, I ask that you please do so before going forward with this part 24, or that you please do so at your earliest convenience. You may learn something new. By listening and doing that, you may learn something new. You may be reminded about something or be reminded of something. Or at the very least, I can almost guarantee you that you may get something to think about. So you may hear another perspective. And please note that I did not say that by listening to yours truly you will learn something, but that you may learn something. The truth be told, these talks, these presentations are definitely not for everyone. And I'm well aware of the fact and the possibility that some of you might be offended by the truth, or more correctly, by the facts that are enveloped in the things that I'm saying. But as the late Robert Nesta Marley once said in one of his songs titled Jaliv, he said, and I quote, "The truth is an offense but not a sin," unquote. And as the late Dale Carnegie said, and again I quote, "Those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still," unquote. And for the record, I like to repeat this, that I'm not a con. And neither am I trying to con or convert or to convince anyone. I'm just sharing another perspective on a lot of things, and especially as it has to do with my fellow natural native earthly humans. Now, for those of you that have been listening to some of, if not all of my previous episodes, you will already know that my answer to those two questions, can Africa be set free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? My answer is a resounding yes. And I have no doubt about such a possibility. However, the purpose of these series of talks is to show you, from my perspective and spiritual and intellectual insights, how and when Africa or Burkina Faso, and by extension all Africans home and abroad, can and will be set free from the tyranny of imperialism and colonialism. It was the late Maya Angelou who once said, again I quote, as I did previously, and she said, the truth is no one of us can be free if everybody is not free, unquote. And the fact, and with that fact, we both know that none of us Africans can, or African nations, or the continent, or individual, can or will be free until all of us are set free. So we have to work together to ensure that we all are liberated. So in my last task, I shared with you and showed you how China and the Chinese people were able to, and are still able to, free themselves both mentally, psychologically, physically, and otherwise from the curses and evils of imperialism and colonialism, and in particular Western imperialism and Western colonialism. And having done so, they were able to rise from poverty and has become the beacon on a hill in terms of progress, in terms of development, in terms of technology and prosperity, and they have become a lighthouse for whosoever will to follow. And the main thing that they did were to seriously clamp down on the invasion of the extremely dangerous and deadly dark forces virus called religion, and by extension religions, and in particular the extremely dangerous and deadly invasion of the Western imperialist and Western colonialist religion and religious virus called Christianity. Now, and I quote, many Chinese citizens associate Christianity with a period of national humiliation and foreign domination. The unequal treaties imposed upon China by Western powers often involve missionary activity, further solidifying the link between Christianity and Western imperialism in the minds of many Chinese. This historical baggage continues to influence the government's views of Christianity today, unquote. I told you that by sticking to their own roots, their own culture and spirituality, coupled with them studying, knowing, memorizing, practicing, and teaching themselves their own Chinese literature, their own Chinese book called The Art of War, that not only did they and do they know themselves, but they eventually know their enemy, and by extension their enemies as well. For as it is written in their book, The Art of War, and I quote, if you know yourself and your enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles, unquote. Now, from studying the art of war, the Chinese people also know, understand, and understand the full and true meaning and definition of war. And that war is far more mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and metaphysically intense than it is physically, or than it is physical. And that the physical manifestation of war is just the consequence, or the consequences, aka the physical outcome of that which has first occurred, or that which is currently occurring in the aforementioned realms, the spiritual, metaphysical realm. Now, let me dig a little deeper into this quote from The Art of War. If you know yourself and your enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. And then quickly explain what I mean by the Chinese people knowing themselves, and hopefully we Africans, we melanated people, may all see them as a good example to mimic or to model. Now, the phrase, or more correctly, the maxim, know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. And also, know thyself, and you will know the secrets of the universe and the gods, is a well-known maxim and practice among many truth seekers, many deep analytical thinkers, mystics, Gnostics, esoteric practitioners and philosophers, etc., from antiquity to the present day. To know thyself means one must read oneself. One must study oneself. One must talk to oneself. One must reason with oneself. One must critique oneself. One must listen to oneself. One must believe oneself. One must trust oneself. One must have faith in oneself. One must accept oneself. One must be comfortable with oneself. And above all, one must love oneself, etc. And the same is true of one's opponent, of one's enemy, aka one's opponent. You are, by extension, we must know our enemies. We must know our opponent as well as we know ourselves. Now, for the record, let me make clarity here. For the record, I hereby ask that you please note that this does not mean that you should love your enemies, or even worse, that you should love your enemies as you love yourself. That is gross stupidity. And any and all fools that believe and practice such stupidity are well deserving of the consequences. Now, you or we must know our enemies or our opponents as we know ourselves. And we must and we can know our enemies by their fruits, aka by their works, by their actions, by their deeds, and by their attitude towards us. And in order to do that, we must diligently study them. We must diligently study their past, their history, their present, which is their now, and their now, which is also indicative. Their now is indicative of their future attitude and behavior towards us and our children. We must diligently observe them and their any and every move. We must know that just like how ourselves, we must know that just like how ourself is with us and will be with us for the remainder of our life, so too our enemy is an enemy and an antagonist for the rest of our lives, or hopefully for the rest of their life, and possible far beyond. We must know that our enemy's only goal, intention, and mission are to what? Deceive us, to rob us, to steal from us, to exploit us, to maim us, and to unalive us. We must know that our enemy is constantly plotting on how to do us evil, because that is programmed in their DNA. That is their inherent nature. We must know that our enemy is always patiently waiting for the right opportunity, or some would say the opportune time, to harm us. We must know that just like how a leopard cannot change its spots, an inland taipan snake cannot change its venomous bite, or a scorpion cannot change its poisonous sting, so too an enemy cannot change. Don't be fooled. And thus our mental, physical, and spiritual guard must be activated and in alert status and defense mode at all times. For example, we must know that imperialism and colonialism and their practitioners, the imperialists and the colonialists, are our most deadly enemies. We must know that we know that imperialism is equal to colonialism, meaning it is the same, it is equal to demonism, which is equal to devilism. Or to summarize, imperialism is unadulterated wickedness. It is morally reprehensible. We must know that we know that there is absolutely no one that is involved with the practice of these philosophies and ideologies that is good. No one. And that there is absolutely nothing about imperialism equal colonialism, which is equal to demonism, which is equal to devilism, that is good. Full stop. Period. We must know that we know that anything and everything that is associated with or promoted by imperialism and its practitioners is polluted and thus dangerous and no good. And by the same token, the imperialist and colonialist religion, and by extension the imperialist and colonialist religions, are dark viruses from the dark forces to rob us of not only our life but also of our souls as well. Our enemy knows and know that they know that what religion is. They know what religion is, and that it is a dark and very deadly cancerous virus that is used to infect our minds. And that once our minds are infected with this deadly cancerous virus called religions, it takes full control of our thoughts. It takes full control of our minds and our lives. We then become its prisoner and its subjects and slaves. The cancer, in turn, infects our physical body. In other words, it manifests in our physical body and then metastasize, meaning it spread, thereby making us useless and non-productive until it eventually unalive us. The Chinese government and the Chinese people know all this and more, and thus they clamp down on it, if not completely ban it. And again, I said all of that just to say and prove to you all, my listeners, my fellow natural, native, earthly humans, yes, my fellow African brothers and sisters, home and abroad, that unless or until our leaders, aka the governments, and people of Al-Kibulan, also known as Africa, get rid of all religions, because religion is an alien thing to our continent and to our people. Until they get rid of all religions, all, bar none, from half the continent and from our minds, and then return to our source and our most honorable African ancestors' cultural practices and our spirituality, our continent and our people will never be free and can never be free. Mark my words, I might not be around, but 50 years from this, as long as religion and these things continue on the planet, somebody will be quoting me for saying this. They'll never be free. Now I run out of time, as customary, and I still have a lot more to say, so I may pick up back on this point or on this thought, because there's a lot more I'd like to explain in the next episode. So please join me in episode part 25 for the continuation of Can Africa Be Set Free? Can Burkina Faso, the land of upright people, be set free? And in the meantime and between time, my dearly beloved, here's willing, yours truly is here's willing that you be more in your becoming. Be more and more and much, much more, definitely not less. Again, I warn you, please don't let them be less you. I will be talking about these words and a lot of things if the ancestors so permit me. So stay tuned. So let no one be less you, but be more and more and much, much more. For I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say. And again, please share if you think this may provoke someone to think otherwise, to think outside the box. Again, I thank you.